All right, fellow babies, we're back for some more Pack 11 on the Pachter Factor. Thanks for joining us. Our first question this week comes from SIFTD.net from George Renard. With the recent rumblings that PlayStation VR may be pushed to Q4 2016 and one of its main European executives leaving the company, at what price point do you think PlayStation VR needs to launch to be successful, and why? I'm actually not sure why you mentioned the date or the executive leaving the company. PlayStation VR is being designed to work with the PS4. And I don't know anything about it. I've tried both, I've tried all of them, Vive and Morpheus, PlayStation VR, and Oculus. And I think PlayStation VR is great. What I will say is that the difference that I noticed immediately is the sound in Oculus was incredible. And I can't tell you that I actually noticed in PlayStation VR whether the sound tracked. But what I can tell you is I didn't notice that it did. And with Oculus, it was mind-blowing. So I really noticed. So I think probably PlayStation VR will be underpowered relative to Oculus. Now, if it's underpowered, one would hope that it's priced lower. Because if it's underpowered, if it requires less to process the signal and do all the graphics the way that Sony needs it done, then theoretically their head-mounted display will cost less to produce because it's just not going to be quite as high fidelity. I don't know that. We aren't going to know till it comes out. So the question is, if they price it at $300, how many do they sell? If they price it at $600, how many do they sell? Interestingly, if they price at $600, it's the same as Oculus. And so you'd think, well, Sony, if Sony's underpowered relative to Oculus, how are they going to sell as many at the same price point? Perversely, if it's $600 and you don't need any other equipment because you're one of the 35 million PS4 owners, then it's $600. If it's $600 for Oculus and you need a $1,000 PC, it's $1,600. So I think that's really where we're going to come down. My bias is Oculus is going to work because Facebook's going to make it work. My bias is PlayStation VR is going to work because there are 35 million PlayStation owners who spent $350 or $400 for PlayStation 4, and I think at least 1 million or 2 or 3 will say I can afford another $400 or $500 or $600 to buy one. The higher the price, the fewer the number. If it's $600, probably only 1 million buy it. If it's $300, probably 5 million buy it. So we have to see, and we have to see if the specs actually are good and if it actually works. As far as the Q4 thing, I guess your question implies that Oculus and Vive are going to take all the market share before Sony even hits the market. I would say PlayStation 4 owners will hold out, most of them. Obviously not the super wealthy ones, not the guys who have every toy in sight. But I think real PlayStation fanboys who own a PS4 already will hold out and they will buy the PlayStation VR. I am not buying one the first week. I'm buying one a year later after I see what they all can do. I think that's one of the advantages Sony actually has going last. The other guys are unlikely to have a ton of content initially, so the only people buying them are going to be like those clowns who bought 3D TVs when there's no 3D programming. So we will see, but the lower the price, the better. Lower than 600 is good. Higher than 600 is bad. 600 is probably where they're going to launch. Okay, we got a question from Twitter from @NickMoran. Do world events like wars and elections have an impact on game sales? Clearly, if the war is going on where you live, it's going to keep you from buying games. So I'm guessing that game sales in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria have been down for the last few years. But other than that, I don't think that wars have any impact at all. Elections, only insofar as the politicians may be getting involved saying things about games. But, if you had an election, a presidential election, and the president was saying, a presidential candidate was saying games are bad, well, his rabid fans probably would be inclined to buy fewer games. I would say you're talking less than 1% impact. Something interesting that I heard the president of the ESA say this past week was that Ted Cruz is bragging about being kind of addicted to mobile games when he's on the campaign trail and he's sitting on the bus or the plane trying to chill out. And, you know, we've got politicians like Arnold Schwarzenegger now promoting Mobile Strike. So clearly, and I think what's his name, Donald Rumsfeld made a Churchill, what was the game, bridge or chess or something game, you know. So you're getting politicians more involved. I don't think they have an impact. Obviously, if we were like World War III and it was, you know, everybody was dying and all of our money had to go to the war effort, sure. But we are not there. So if you're outside of Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan, you're probably unimpacted by all the stuff that's going on. All right, we have a question from SIFTD from Suited Armor. Pack, have you ever had an idea for a game? No. And if you did, what is stopping you from creating one? Because I don't have any ideas. What kind of game would it be? It won't be a game because I don't have an idea for one. That's a really funny question. And I mean, I'm flattered that you would even give me credit for being creative at all. I'm a creative speaker. And I'm not a creative writer. I have never had a good idea for anything creative. Not my thing. It never once occurred to me to try to think up a game. I've never thought about an app. I've never thought about creating anything. It is just not in my makeup. I look at games as art. I could barely draw a stick man. So I am just not that person. I cannot express myself with art. I'm incapable of it. I have an okay singing voice, but just meaning that if you heard me sing a song, you would know what the song is. I don't butcher it. But that's as far as it goes. I played musical instruments when I was a kid, and I can read music. I can't improvise. I can't create. I can follow. So no, I'm not the guy. So I'm sorry for raining on your parade because I can't tell you what kind of game I would make. But it sure wouldn't be a first-person shooter. And I have to say, you know, probably my greatest delight is when I play a game that is so completely unexpected. Psychonauts was that game. You know, just playing something that's like, this is so cool and so different from anything. Flower was that game. Like, oh my God. And I don't even know the point of Flower. You know, I finished it in an hour. I don't even know the point. I just thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Journey was like that. I probably spent more than an hour. But oh my God. Braid was that game. You know, so I know I'm picking a bunch of little games. But if I were to ever even try, and I never have, I would try to come up with some little mini game like that was really cool. But since I lack the skill to even express the concept on a storyboard, I don't know how I'd ever get it made. So the point is, I think, and I got to say, I think you can't pick your parents, obviously, but I think I inherited parents who had no artistic, sense at all. I think that kept me from even trying to do creative stuff. I did think about writing a book when I was young. I did think about maybe being a TV writer because I think I could probably write comedy and drama, real life stuff. But games, no way. Games are escape. They are fantasy. They are creating a universe. I mean, boy. And when you look at like some of the successful games out there, how does somebody think up World of Warcraft? My God. I mean, how do they even have that? Like, how do they do that and not have nightmares every night? Like, those guys are freaking amazing. I mean, no, it's so not me. So I'm sorry for the downer answer, but no, I've never had an idea. My lack of skill is stopping me. And since if I ever were to do anything, it would be something ridiculously boring. I could do like a learning game. I mean, I think I could do something like that, but no, not me. Okay, fellow babies, our last question this week from SIFTD is from Burko. Do you see publishers like EA, 2K, Ubisoft, etc. abandoning in-house engines and larger development teams in favor of leveraging newer technologies like Amazon's Lumberyard? No, I don't think there's a chance that happens. I think Amazon's an amazing company. It's one of my favorite companies as a consumer, and it is one of my favorite companies as a stock market analyst. So I absolutely admire how hard they try to accomplish their vision, which is everybody buys everything on Amazon. And I actually do understand what they're doing with Amazon Web Services. They want to be integrated into everything we do. They want to be the backbone of everything. I get it. And I do think giving away a free engine is interesting and compelling. But for a big game, the cost of the engine is the smallest piece of the game development puzzle. So I don't know. You'd have to ask Epic what they charge for the Unreal Engine, but I would bet it's less than $500,000 for each game made. It's probably even smaller than that. You can talk to the Unity guys about what it costs to use their architecture free with a bunch of modules. Again, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. Everybody's built their own. Rockstar has the Rage, the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, whatever. No, never. They are never going to give those up. And the reason they're not is they've kind of optimized a platform that works for them, and all their developers know how to use it. I understand what Amazon's trying to accomplish. Like, we are going to be that. And if Amazon builds Lumberyard with modules, and if it's highly customizable, and if you could actually work with it faster and more efficiently, then yes. And I know, guys, we were talking about this at DICE this week, that there are processes that used to take 2 weeks to accomplish, to quality test something and beta test in another country and work out bugs and quality tests that take 30 minutes now. That you can actually get the instant feedback because AWS is everywhere. I can see what Amazon Web Services brings to the table, because the more people use them for every aspect of their business, the more likely a company is to morph over and use Lumberyard as the engine. But this is chicken and egg. It's going to take years. I don't think it happens for a while, and I think that the publishers are all weary of Amazon. So if we get to 2019, 2020, and the publishers can find a way to go direct to consumer, so maybe make discs, maybe not, maybe download, maybe play a game on any device. So maybe make it for Xbox and PlayStation, Xbox 2 and PlayStation 5, but also a download to your PC or your phone or your tablet or your Kindle or your Fire TV. And Amazon is willing to take a smaller cut than retail takes. So it's economically feasible to let Amazon own all this. Maybe they'll build it in that engine, and maybe the direct-to-consumer model will be built on that. And right now, Microsoft and Sony take 30% of a digital download, a full game download. Amazon will have to take less than that to hook the publishers into using them. I think that could be a huge business. So that's where I think Amazon's going with this. I don't think it happens this cycle. I think it happens toward the end of this cycle, and I think it impacts next cycle. So it's a very good question, but I don't see anybody abandoning in-house stuff this cycle. That's it for this week's Pachter Factor. Again, we appreciate your loyalty, appreciate the time you spend listening to me rant on all these dopey topics. If you'd like to ask a question, you can submit it to siftd.net if you're a SIFTD Premium subscriber. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to ask a question, submit it on Twitter at Michael Pachter. Please copy at SIFTD Games, and I will do my best to answer as many of these as I can directly. We are favoring the SIFTD questions over the Twitter questions because those guys pay for the right to get it up in the queue. You're welcome to join SIFTD, $30 a year for premium membership. You get a lot more content than just this, so we'd love to have you as members. And if you find yourself pining away because Game Trailers is no more and you are a member of that community, we welcome you into the SIFTD.net community. It is large and vibrant, intelligent, and respectful. So I think you will find a lot of good there, and I think you can find many of your old Game Trailers friends there. So give it a shot. It's a 3-day free trial. You can see if you like it or not. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.